The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Breakfast Call. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello!
Good morning!
You're listening to DurianASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing.
And we do share lots of news from ASEAN as well as local news in Malaysia. And welcome back, Gowri!
Hi, I'm back. Yes, thank you so much. I had a pretty long Deepawali break, which I enjoyed a lot. It was great to be back home with my family to see them again. It's been quite long since I last saw them.
How long was it?
Probably like 5 months.
Oh dear. So how was your Deepawali with your family?
It was great. It was nice to catch up with everybody. It was nice to see all my relatives again, and of course all the food that comes with it. So I have to be work extra hard at the gym now because whatever that I worked before is all gone.
It's all gone, but you can start again. And then, well, you're back to our radio studio today. So happy to see you.
Yes, and I actually miss doing this. And of course, to kick it off, we have a little bit of football update. We'll mention a bit of a local football because we rarely talk about it. And we have Pahang that actually made it through to the Malaysia Cup finals.
When is Malaysia Cup final exactly? And then, after the World Cup, we hardly see Malaysia, our nation in the World Cup, you see. So, this is a sort of the kind of good news to Malaysians,
A lot of people are they refuse to watch local football because they call it low quality football. But whatever it is, it's our nation, and it should start from where we are right now instead of always being about EPL and the Spanish league. And I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite here because I really pay attention to local football.
You're
as
a
well.
big fan of football as well. And then the final cup will be held in the 2nd of November, which is just coming on Sunday.
And that will be at the National Stadium in Bukit Jalil. If you guys want to go watch, please go and watch. Support our local football as well.
Yes, and also this particular news about the football, it also says that nothing went right for the Red Eagles. Red Eagles is the name for the football team, I believe. And then it was also fitting present for the Sultan of Pahang, Sultan Ahmad Shah, who celebrated his 84th birthday.
Right, and Pahang is also called the Elephants apparently, and they pulled off a remarkable fight back at the Darul Makmur Stadium to hammer Kedah 5-0 in the return of their semi-final clash. So another update that we have over the weekend, we'll move on to international football now. We had two very important matches. First one is, of course, El Clasico. It's a classic match that no matter what team you support, you just have to watch this match. And of course, I'm talking about Real Madrid and Barcelona. And Barcelona was actually unbeatable the entire season, but they lost for the first time last Saturday. And I'm very happy that it was my team that destroyed them.
How about the opposite team? Fans. They're gonna be like, "Oh no, we had so much expectation."
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the score was 3-1, which was pretty shocking because Barcelona is a defending champion. Of course, we have to acknowledge the fact that they are a very strong, an excellent team with excellent skills, excellent players, but it just wasn't their day.
Well, it is also true to say that one cannot be at the top forever. And the beauty of football is you can't expect what will happen next. And then with the different team members, and then perhaps with the playing against each other, it just sort of brings a different drama, different stories, different politics all together.
Right, and another match that happened last night, which kept me awake till 3 in the morning.
Again, welcome back to this studio,
Right.
Gowri. Yeah.
It's a surprise that I woke up early this morning, and I'm talking about Manchester United and Chelsea. Of course, another anticipated match because Manchester United, of course, although they have not been informed the last couple of seasons, they are still regarded as one of the best teams of all time, and they were going against Chelsea, who were the champions last season, and they are still at the top of the table this season. And that also surprisingly was a draw. A lot of people thought that it's going to be an easy win for Chelsea, but Manchester United actually leveled up at the very last minute, and it was 1-1.
So it seems like all the football fans out there need to be expect the unexpected this time.
That is a very reasonable remark because yes, we have been receiving a lot of shocking results recently, so anything can happen. There's no right prediction. We just have to wait and see what happens. And another thing that we also have to wait for it was Anwar Ibrahim's invitation to University Malaya. And this is another issue that was kind of shaking the nation for the last couple of days because it's where the university actually steps in and interferes with the students. And when it comes to education, when it comes to academic freedom, people always prefer it in a way that the government stay out of it and the university give the student the freedom that they need to express or to invite whoever they want to speak. But in this case, actually stepped in and
I'm pretty happy to know all this, especially news from This particular university takes a lot of actions towards
My
the government.
university.
Exactly. And then I can say that I'm pretty happy to see all this. And also University Malaya must support academic freedom. And then the deputy VC must stop talking like an UMNO branch leader and start showing some intellectual backbone.
Right, and they were actually threatening to suspend the student who invited the opposition leader for the talk. But he was brave enough to say that, if you are brave enough to suspend me, then go ahead and do it because I'm not doing anything wrong. He just invited a political leader to come over, give a speech. It probably shows where he stands politically, which is entirely up to him if he wants to be pro-government or pro-opposition. It shouldn't. Why does that have to lead to him being suspended or even expelled from the university?
And also this kind of awareness when it comes to developing in academic and intellectual areas, students should voice out for their right and also freedom when it comes to education, because education in anywhere, not only Malaysia, it's very, very crucial to produce the younger generations and to understand what's going on around them, and also for the higher learning.
And the moment the government steps in, it really affects how the academic freedom of the people, of the students in this country, even previously in the case of the lecturer himself being charged with the Sedition Act because of a research paper that he wrote. And with them, keep meddling into these affairs, it's really not gonna turn out well for the future of this country, especially for these young people who are in this case really starting to think, and they know what they want, they know where they stand, they are very opinionated, and this should not be a reason for the university to take action against them.
Exactly.
Habits like this should actually be encouraged more.
Yes, I mean, rather than the trampling on the fundamental rights of the students, I mean, the university authorities should instead focus on its attention on how best to improve the university's international ranking.
And after all, this is a democratic country. Everyone is free to voice out their opinions, whatever their views are, of course, within certain limitations. But then again, it is a.
But we can't ignore that. The more democratic we practice, the more politicals we can create within a nation, also.
And so hopefully, things turn out well, and will hopefully stop meddling with the students' activities and give them just a little more space, a little more freedom to carry out the activities they want, unless it's really, really threatening the safety of the university or the country, then of course they can step in. But when it comes to things like inviting someone to come over to speak, should not be taken, should not be made that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And another person who is shaking the entire region is, of course, Jokowi, Mr. Joko Widodo, who is the president of Indonesia. And he has finally unveiled his awesome Indonesia cabinet, according to our headline here. And on Sunday afternoon, he finally presented his cabinet. And a lot of people were actually waiting to know who he's going to select, who is going to be part of his cabinet. And his selection was based on experience and good leadership skills.
Yes, it's very, very important for him that he chose he studied and he chose very carefully when he came to his working cabinet, because when Jokowi came to this position, he didn't have enough seats to support him other than the support from the public. So in order to grow his power and authority level, he really needs to have a really good working cabinet. So, and also it is believed that he announced his 34-member working cabinet after repeated delays, pending the outcome of background checks performed by the Corruption Eradication Commission, which is called KPK, and also Financial Transaction Report and Analysis Center (PPATK), as well as constitution with the House of Representatives on changes some ministries. And also he said, I selected the ministers carefully and then meticulously, Joko said in the press conference, where he also added by saying that's important because this cabinet will work for the next 5 years with him. And also we want the chosen people to be clean figures, hence our consultations with the KPK and the PPATK.
A lot of Indonesians were very happy with how he selected his ministers, and they were also happy that he actually introduced the ministers before their proper inauguration. So he actually let the people know who the ministers are, introduced them to the public, who is who's under what portfolio, and actually we even have the complete list here, but of course it's way too many to go through and to read out everything. But one of the notable one is this woman called Ibu Yohana, who was elected as the Minister of Women's Empowerment and Child Protection. And she's also known as Ibu Pelindung Anak Papua. And she was given this this title because of her education and also in her activities fighting and advocating the rights of the Papuan people. As we know, they are constantly being oppressed and they're not being treated as well as the Indonesians in the other islands. So, and another person is Ibu Retno as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he also has a total of 8 women in his working cabinet.
And so definitely he does respect the rights for women, and then he believes in the he doesn't discriminate just simply because of the gender problem. And also there are 13 of the political appointees political party members, and the other 8 have chosen ties to the PDIP.
Another interesting thing is they actually have a Minister of Religion, and the current Minister of Religion, let me see if I can find the name, is Lukman Hakim Saifuddin. And a lot of comments on Facebook, on Twitter, actually want to do away with this Minister of Religion because it's still kind of a bit too, I wouldn't say backward, more of a, if Indonesia is really looking to move forward and to achieve the democracy that it wants, it's all the comments are saying that it's kind of unnecessary to have a Minister of Religion in place in the cabinet.
So that's why all these political analysts, they were not fully convinced with the decision that Joko Widodo made. 21 of the appointees are either affiliated to a political party or have links to senior party officers, particularly Megawati Sukarno Putri, Joko's party patron and the chairwoman of Indonesia Democratic Party of Struggle. So, this after Joko Widodo had repeatedly insisted that the political appointees would be limited just to 16, and then he also needs to be aware the opposition party where still the power of oppositions are a bit stronger than the current Joko Widodo's party. So he also needs to take that into consideration.
Another aspect that is a notable move, and Malaysia can probably follow suit, is the fact that he put elementary and secondary education and tertiary education under separate departments. And of course, we do have a Ministry of Education and a Ministry of Higher Education as well. But when it comes to education, we're pretty much still confined under the same framework. And in here, he actually separated it into two different focus to come up with different ways to approach these two fields.
Even before Joko Widodo actually came to this position, when he was even a governor, he insisted and also stressed on the fact that how important the education is, in a nation and also worldwide. So by separating this education sector from the other area, it's actually good news to the Indonesia.
And there's also a little poll here at the Jakarta Globe that asked all the Indonesians and probably anyone who is on the website as to what issue do we think that Jokowi will or should tackle first. And of all the categories here, like fuel subsidy cuts, human rights defense, maritime improvement, agricultural reforms, combating terrorism, narrowing the income gap, energy security, fighting corruption, reducing government bureaucracy, the highest votes is actually the fuel subsidy cuts that everyone thinks that he should tackle first as the president of Indonesia. And moving on, we have a slightly contrasting news also from Indonesia, where poverty is actually pushing underage kids to drive public buses.
This is it sounds very dangerous because like 16-year-old, he was just relaxing the driver's seat of the minibus.
And he seemed pretty comfortable doing the job, which means he must be doing it for a very long time.
He actually given the driving license to take over, driver's seat and then drive around. I mean, although his driving is competent, his young age is apparent from his small build and innocent face.
And he also is reported here that all these boys, their education are usually cut short after their elementary school because they do not have enough money to go on with their high school and of course to go to university, and their parents cannot afford it. So especially as the eldest child in the family, they are forced to take up a job, and the easiest job to do is driving these little vans called angkot.
And then they have been driving more than a year. I mean, the authorities gave them warning and then also made them to sign a statement declaring that they wouldn't drive again. But then with this poverty going on, where you will just keep on leading them to find something, to sustain financial aid.
Right. And what's really sad is they are actually expected to make about 80 ringgit, or it's about 300,000 rupiah for them to give to their boss. But in return, they only get about 13 ringgit a day to take back home. So it goes back to how many days they work, how many hours they work, and how much money they get at the end, and how much they give their parents, how much they get to actually save for themselves to go back to school one day.
And this is a quite serious matter because these children, they have this thirst for education and the learning and even the knowledge, but then only problem is they are financially, they don't have a financial support. That they just need to throw themselves into these jobs and that job to find the financial support. So that's when they got a job from by driving buses or even worse than that.
And it's true what you say about the hunger for education, because as kids, of course, when they see their friends in school, they want to be in school as well. They want to move on to secondary school, to university. They don't want to lose out in life, because of course that's the easiest way to secure a good future in any country at all. But at the same time, when they start working and once they get comfortable to that working life, it's probably going to get really, really hard to get back to school and to get back into that whole going for classes and doing your homework when they're so used to having a job and working.
It is a totally different reality. All these underage drivers driving around, and they've actually tasted the money, and it's really, like you say, it's really hard to go back to the school and then adapt to the system and socializing with their own age. So it is quite not easy.
And we hope that this is something that the president will look into as well, so all these young kids can go to school and not slog the hours away working and driving minivans. And speaking of rich and poor, we have a list of 7 cities that are being referred to as playgrounds for the rich and terrors of the poor.
In many of the world's major metropolitan areas, private capital investment in the real estate has become a central component of urban planning. And also following market logic, these cities compete with each other for developers' money. So what are the cities that we have here, Gowri?
We have New York City, of course, on top of the list. They actually have 3,357 unsheltered people living on the streets of New York, which is a 6% rise from last year. And this seems to be a continuing trend that is also a worrying trend for the city of New York. And a vast majority of them actually just live across the city, and some of them have moved to shelters. But the number of inhabitants is actually growing higher and higher each year.
It is a very interesting fact, because when we think of New York City, it's such a developed city with all those high quality living style there. And at the same time, there are still thousands of people living homeless.
And of course, the second one is Los Angeles, and the third one is San Francisco. All 3 in the US, which is not really a surprise, because US is always the place you go when you want a better future for some reason. Maybe it was true back then, but it's not really the case anymore. They are also having a major unemployment problem. They have huge economic problems, and it's not really the go-to place for a secured future. These days, people prefer Australia or more European countries as opposed to US. But of course, the 3 cities in US still have the highest number of homeless and unsheltered people.
But of course, when it comes to employment issues, a lot of people still do find their jobs in the USA, because it's one of the biggest country in the world.
Especially in terms of music now.
Yeah, well, you can say that. And also at the same time, people still believe that there are so many opportunities out there in the US, and that they will be given a lot of choices when it comes to job and employment. And then we also have other cities listed, such as Dublin, London, and Nairobi, and also 3 other cities such as Jakarta.
Right, and this Dublin is a little bit of a surprise, because a lot of people don't actually they're not actually aware that Ireland even exists, except maybe those who love Guinness, or if they listen to a certain kind of music, then they know about Dublin. And a lot of Malaysians actually go to Dublin to study medicine, because that seems to be a popular destination. And in Dublin, apparently there's been a house bubble forming in the market, and this has happened before in somewhere in the 90s or the 2000s. And they actually have some of the most expensive real estate in the world, which has kind of ravaged the public housing programs. And their private investors are actually coming in, which is why the house prices are so high, pretty much like what's happening in our country as well.
And also next one is London. Like I mentioned, it's actually more like in New York City. There's a huge gap between rich and poor, definitely. And also one reason the London has become so attractive for the world's rich is because tax havens, formal tax havens like Swiss bank accounts are no longer as safe from regulators as they were in the past.
And speaking of the gap between the rich and the poor, the most extreme place for that is actually Nairobi, which is in Kenya. And the line between the housed, the slum dweller, and the homeless is much more porous there than most parts in the United States or Europe. And half of their residents in Nairobi actually live in slums. And some of them are even being forcibly removed to make way for constructions and hot property market to cater to the rich residents, the tourists and business people. So it's that bad that these people are just being shoved out of their houses just so some property development can take place.
Mm-hmm. And then the last list will be Jakarta. Jakarta is well known for one of the happening city in the world, but at the same time we can't ignore the fact that the gap between the poor and rich. Over a decade, the state has forcibly evicted slum dwellers out of places with potential for real estate development. And also, the gulf between the rich and poor is deeper and wider in Indonesia than it has ever been. So the list of cities are really interesting to see the differences and the gap between rich and poor. And at the same time, there are still as much as people are looking for and then for the better lifestyle, there are still a lot of people down there living in the poor and homeless.
And that's all the time that we have for this morning. That'll be all. We'll be back later, of course, for our Blast from the Grassroots session.
And do find us at Drian ASEAN by downloading TuneIn app. And we have also other social channels like Facebook and YouTube.
Of course, and we're also on Twitter. Do look us up on all these different social medias and follow us to get all the latest updates on our topics and speakers. And this is Gowri.
And this is Grace.